Astro Kids, and welcome back. Today we are talking about this Mercury retrograde that is taking place on the 30th of January. So hey everyone, and welcome back. We are getting into this Mercury retrograde, and I am back from my long hiatus of really just doing internal work. So today I'm super excited to be back to talk to you about this retrograde. And of course, in Western tropical astrology, there is a huge emphasis that is put on Mercury retrograde not being a great time for doing taxes or making negotiations. I am not going to talk about that in this video. There is a different take on this from the perspective of Vedic astrology. And depending on what house this is activating for you is going to depend upon how this retrograde will affect you. This is a Mercury retrograde that is starting out in Aquarius, and that will return back into those later degrees of Capricorn. And when it comes direct, it will be within the middle degrees of Capricorn. So this is a Mercury retrograde that is going through a lot of Saturnian influence, where this is playing a part with the world at large. And again, this is going to depend upon where this is in your chart. For some of you, this may be a difficult time where you have to avoid making decisions and filing contracts. For others of you, this can be a great time for intuition, for clarity to come in, as this is a review period. This is for reflection within your life. And so for some of you, this can bring about extremely positive results depending on how this is playing out in your chart. So let's go ahead and talk about this Mercury retrograde. First off, to start, on the 25th of January, we have Mercury entering into Aquarius. And so this is going to be Mercury entering into the nakshatra of Dhanishta, which is all about fame, success, right? So this is a great time as far as the Mercury transit that we're going through, as far as actually working towards success, looking into the future, planning ahead. Where do we want to see things go? And very appropriate as far as the times that we're in, as we're shifting the presidency, as we're going through all of these different changes in the world, where this is a huge time to look ahead as far as success, career, where things are headed in life. And so, no, this Mercury retrograde is not going to be overall a negative time. This is a time to reflect on where do we want things to go as a whole, as society, as a whole entire humanity. How are we going to push ahead? Because remember that Aquarius is connected to the future. Aquarius is ruled by Saturn, which is a sign of the world, of the government, of the structures put in place, right? This physical construct that we live in. And Aquarius is Mudracone sign, where Capricorn is more about the actual structures and boundaries. Aquarius is about how can we advance, how can we move forward as a collective. So this is a huge time to focus on that forward progress of how can we get things running again, how can we fix certain areas of life, how can we move ahead through these difficult and challenging times that we're in. Now, on the 30th is when we actually see the retrograde, which will happen at about 2 degrees of Aquarius. So again, we're still in the same nakshatra that we are starting off this retrograde with. And this is a huge time to, once again, look ahead, review on the things that we need to change or work on and improve to see that forward progress and success moving forward. And so in your life, if you have doubts, if you have been worrying, if you're not content with the way that things have been going, this is a huge time to review those areas of your life to see, okay, what do I need to work on? What do I need to change in order to move forward, to push ahead? Now, this Mercury retrograde is going to take us into the month of February. And on February 4th, we're going to see this Mercury retrograde go into Capricorn at those last degrees. And this will keep us in the same nakshatra. However, this is going to shift back to a different pada of the nakshatra, which is going to be more so focused on communication, on technical matters, where that first part of it was more focused on the art, the beauty, the spirituality, seeing things from that bigger perspective. Now we're getting more on a micro level. How can we start to break things down, change, reassemble them? And so now we're starting to get a Virgo influence coming in as we're starting to retrogress back into Capricorn again. And so this is how can we actually get to the tangible parts of our society, of our life, and actually reassemble things to the right degree. So this is a huge time of really bringing things back to a place of structure, getting rid of chaos, removing these negative decisions. So starting to reassemble the parts and bring things back together is a huge theme that is going on as we're shifting back through this Mercury retrograde. And once again, remembering that a Mercury retrograde is not a negative period. It's not a period of accidents or of unexpected events or of not making certain deals or decisions. It's a time of reflection, a time of review, to go over the things that you were doubting or that you made mistakes over or that need to be readjusted. So this is a huge theme that is happening as we are shifting here into this brand new way of living, of being, as we're shifting ahead. Now this will also take us to the 20th, where we will see Mercury station direct. But remember that once Mercury stations direct, it also has to go back to the position in which it started the retrograde from to clear its shadow. So when we get to this direct on the 20th of February, this is a time of coming out of that review period and starting to set the foundation, starting to come up with a plan, a procedure of how we're moving ahead. And this is going to happen in those mid degrees of Capricorn, where now we are shifting into a brand new nakshatra, which is the Sarvana nakshatra. So now we're starting to get into this different energy that is more so going to be about how can we preserve and better the world as a whole. So this is starting to get into a place of, once again, how can we bring things back? How can we better the collective? And this is coming from a pada that is within the Cancer Navamsa. So this is about support. This is about understanding, about coming together as a whole. And so once again, this is how can we come back to a place of home, a place of peace, a place of understanding, bringing things back into balance, finding better ways of moving ahead on this path. And of course, all of this has to clear. So we will not see Mercury clear its shadow until March the 11th. So we're still in this phase of trying to preserve things, trying to better things, trying to pull things together. And then Mars is going to come back to that spot that we started at. That was all about how do we push ahead to the future? How do we get things going again? So once again, this whole theme of this Mercury retrograde has to do with how are we putting things back together? How are we restructuring our society as a whole? How are we restructuring our lives? How are we bringing things back online? So this is a huge focus that is going on. And remembering what Mercury is about rational and logical thinking, right? Mercury is that quick moving planet of communication, of relationships, of connection, of understanding things on a rational plane of thought. So now we are coming to this place of trying to rationalize where we are at as a whole and how we can move ahead and better ourselves as a collective. This is a huge theme that is happening with this Mercury retrograde. Now what I'm going to do is I will go through each of the signs as well as pulling a card for the collective. But this huge message really is about how do we bring things back into alignment? How do we rearrange things? How do we preserve and better the collective, better our lives, get things back online, start moving forward from the crisis or the difficulty and challenges that we have gone through? Let's go ahead and pick a card for this Mercury retrograde. Interesting. So the card that comes up here is the Seven of Swords. Now, normally this card has to do with betrayal, with deception. But what I'm getting from this card, specifically for this Mercury retrograde, is thinking in a strategic way, making strategic action. So this is a time of taking action using strategy, using logic and reasoning, right? What is the most clever and tactical way that we can get things moving, that we can get things started, right? That we can get things moving in a better way. So really finding that tactical way. And again, huge influence from that Virgo pada of the Naksatra that we will see this Mercury retrograde in. So very technical, very well planned out, very strategic is the energy that's coming through for this Mercury retrograde. So this is a huge time to really plan, to strategize, to find ways to get yourself out of a negative situation. Again, this Seven of Swords is about trying to get away with something, trying to find that strategic way to break through. But in this case, it is coming through in a positive message, where this is about how can we strategically get through this difficult situation as a whole. Now we will get into the zodiac signs. So, how is this affecting you for your ascendant, sun, or moon? So, if you are looking at your ascendant from the Lagna, sun, or moon, then this is for you. And let's go ahead and start with Aquarius, since this is a Mercury retrograde that is starting off in the sign of Aquarius. So this means this is happening in your first house, your physical body, your identity, your life journey. So this is a time of actually reviewing your life as a whole, reviewing your identity of how you're showing up in life. And so for some of you, this is looking at your decisions. This is looking at your relationships. This is looking at how you're dealing with all of the situations that you are coming across in life. And so for many of you, if you have made choices or decisions within your relationship or within your life that you regretted, this is your time to revisit that. This is your time to go back and rethink how you can better that situation, how you can recover that situation and retry again. So this Mercury retrograde can give you a great opportunity to retry in your life as far as your decisions, as far as your experiences, as far as your relationships. Huge time, especially as Mercury is making that mutual aspect with your seventh house. Now, if you are a Capricorn, then this is happening in your second house. So, for those of you with Capricorn, moon or ascendant, especially, also sun, if you're looking at your sun lagna, then this is happening in your second house of family, of wealth, of security. So, this is a huge time of renegotiating in your family. If you are having disputes, arguments, disagreements, can't come to terms with things, this is a huge time to have that talk, to have that conversation with a family member. This is a time for you to review your own values and principles. Are you living by the things that you hold worth in at this time? Are your things that you're speaking on matching with the things that you value. Huge time for this. And this is a time where anything that you're trying to speak on or negotiate on can hugely give you reversed results. So this is a time where you may not want to make any sort of agreements or negotiations, right? However, if you are in a situation that is negative or conflicting and you're trying to make an agreement, this can be a great time for that. So that Mercury retrograde can reverse the effects of what you are trying to speak on. Now, if you are a Sagittarius, moon or ascendant especially, but also if you are looking from your sun lagna, then this is happening in your third house. Third house of siblings, communication, short distance travel, technology, etc. So this is a huge time where you may find difficulties with technology because this is happening in that third house. This may be some time where you see some delay in communication, where you see some issues that come up that need to be resolved within your connections. Because once again, this is happening in that third house of communication. So this is a great time to review any sort of discussions or agreements similar to that second house, where you can see some conflicts or delays come up in your social network as far as your family or those closest to you. Now, if you are a Scorpio, especially for the ascendant or moon, but also if you're looking from your sun lagna, then this is happening in your fourth house. And with this Mercury retrograde, this is a huge time for connection, right? This is a time where if you have been withdrawn, if you have been detached, if you found yourself in this place of distancing, then this is a time to come back into connection. You can gain a lot of support from your connections at this time, especially as this is sitting in your fourth house of inner peace and happiness and shifting back into that third house of communication. Lots of support that you can receive at this time. Now, if you are a Libra, especially ascendant or moon, but also if you were going by your sun lagna, then this is happening in your fifth house. So this is happening in the fifth house of children, of education, of creativity, of speculative business. So this is a huge time where if you were trying to work on a project and it got delayed, or there was some frustrations or irritation or something that you didn't like, this is a great time to go back and fix and make those changes to progress forward with that project. And this is a huge time where you can see good results with that project, especially because this retrograde is shifting back into that fourth house of inner peace and happiness. Now, if you are a Virgo, Virgo ascendant or moon, but especially if you are a Virgo moon, and this can also apply if you are a Virgo sun, if you're going by your sun lagna, then this is happening in your sixth house. Sixth house of enemies, illnesses, diseases. So this can be a huge time of seeing some struggles and challenges that you may have went through reversing, right? And many of you may have seen a lot of struggles and challenges as Mars has been activating that sixth house for some time now. So this is some time where you might get some relief from those struggles and difficulties that you may have seen as far as your health, as far as stresses, as far as obstacles in your work life. All of these things can be reversed through the effects of this Mercury retrograde. So this may be a time where if you were frustrated and irritated and gave up, where you want to try again and pick it back up. Now, if you are a Leo, ascendant or moon, also if you're going by your sun lagna, then this is happening in your seventh house. Seventh house of marriage, of contracts, agreements, legalities. So this is a huge time where Mercury retrograde can give you an opportunity to resolve an issue or conflict that may have come up in the past. This can also be a time, though, where you will see reverse effects. If you were trying to negotiate something legally, if you were trying to get some good results through a business contract, this may not happen. There might be a delay, or you might see negative results come through due to the reversing effects of Mercury, especially because Mercury is dealing with communication. So this can be a huge time where you could see something that you thought wasn't going to work go through, or this could be something that you've been fighting for that doesn't fall through in the end. Now, if you are a Cancer ascendant or moon, also if you're going by your sun lagna, then you will see this Mercury retrograde in your 8th house. The 8th house being the house of sudden ups and downs, of taxes, shared resources, mystery, and so on. So this is a huge time where you can see some fears, some doubts, some worries, some obsessions that can come up to the surface. And so this may be a time where if you've been stuffing down these darker, scarier feelings, or you have been running from your problems, where you can see this surface and come back into your life. So anything that you have not resolved, anything that you run from, anything that you're afraid of, this can come into your view for you to face it. This Mercury retrograde wants you to transform yourself through these experiences. And so you may see this through your connections, especially those deeper connections, through your marriage, or through some other connections that are more intimate, where there is some sort of crisis or problem or fear that will come up to the surface. Now, if you are a Gemini ascendant or moon, also if you're going by your sun lagna, then this is a Mercury retrograde that is happening in your 9th house of wisdom, of higher knowledge, of education, travel, philosophy. So this is a huge time where you may see yourself revisiting something that you've learned in the past. This is a time where some of your views or philosophies may turn back on you, where you may have to review some of these beliefs. You may have found that some of your beliefs were not true, were not correct, or didn't serve you. You may also find that some of the things that you didn't believe or doubted actually proved to be correct at this time. And so this is a time, especially for you, if you are a Gemini, where your intuition and your higher insight can be activated. Now, if you are a Taurus ascendant or moon, or if you have your sun lagna in Taurus, then this is a Mercury retrograde that is happening in your 10th house of career, of public image, of status, and so on. So this is a time where you may find yourself reviewing things within your public life. You may find yourself actually going back and reviewing some of your work and progress. You may also find yourself switching careers at this time. You may find yourself coming up with some solutions to some problems and difficulties within your career. So this is a huge time to review your public life and status. Now, if you are an Aries ascendant or moon, or you have your sun lagna in Aries, then this is a Mercury retrograde that is taking place in your 11th house. So this is a time of reviewing your friend circles, reviewing those groups and organizations that you're a part of. You may find yourself actually moving away from these groups. You may find yourself finding out some information that has you rethinking your connections at this time. You may also find yourself rethinking your plans for the future, your hopes and dreams, right? This could be a time where you may have put off a hope and dream in the past and now you're revisiting it. Or this could be a time where you had these high hopes and dreams for yourself that you are finding that you have to leave behind. So we're seeing reverse effects as far as your gains. Now, for those of you who have Pisces ascendant or moon or sun lagna, this is a retrograde that is taking place in your 12th house. So, the house of the hidden, the subconscious, the spiritual realms, foreign places, and so on. So, this is a Mercury retrograde that can have you thinking about traveling to a foreign place. If you thought about it in the past, now you might be reconsidering it. If you thought about traveling briefly before this, then you might also find yourself reconsidering, right? And this is also a time where you can find yourself with high intuition. This is a Mercury retrograde that is taking place in the 12th house, where there can be strong psychic inclinations happening with this retrograde. So that was the horoscope for Mercury retrograde happening on January 30th. I hope you all enjoyed this. If you like this video, feel free to leave a like as well as a comment. If you are new to this channel, don't forget to hit the subscribe button. And of course, if you are interested in any of my services, that is all down below in the description, including the astrology class. And announcement, real quick, is that we do have more lectures available if you are a member of the class on Patreon or within the Facebook group Astrology Lessons with Daquan Jones. If you are on Udemy, these lectures will be soon available. So I will leave all of that down below in the description. I hope you all have a great day, and I will see you in the next video.